Now we need to understand the MVC design pattern adopted by the Cocoa Touch framework inside the iOS. Now, when it comes to MVC, um, where we say model means data, view means GUI, and controller means the junction where model meets view. Basically, whenever you create a new class, it should be a part of either of these three camps: model, view, or controller. Now, in order to understand MVC, generally you can imagine your brain, which contains the data, as a model. Your view can be anything, like in my case, it's my Mac machine displaying the data what I want to display, or it can be a drawing paper where you can write anything, or the whiteboard where you can write with markers. But the hand is the controller, because it's the hand where your data is transmitted from your brain to the viewport. So have if you understand this concept, you can understand the MVC. So the data in my brain is was allowed to meet the GUI, which is a whiteboard or the drawing paper, through head. So similarly, your model class will meet the view class inside the controller class. Now, we are interested in the MVC adopted by the iOS Cocoa Touch framework. Now, in Cocoa Touch framework, every controller, whichever you create, will have a view associated with it. So, it's like whenever you create a hand, you will get a drawing paper attached to it. Now, this view can have n numbers of views attached to it. So it's like a so it is like a stack where you have a view, controller view at the base, and you can start creating small view and add those view on top of the controller's view. So you have a drawing board and you start drawing on that drawing board. You have a drawing paper, sorry, and on that drawing paper you start drawing small pictures or text data, whatever you want. So simple MVC where in the iOS is like controller will have a view attached to it, and on that controller's view you will be creating the subviews. So right now we have selected single view application. So the template created a single controller application for us. So we'll be going inside the view controller. Okay, now view control, so the screen which you're seeing on the launch, when you see the screen on the launch, it's basically controller's view. Now in this exercise we'll see how to declare the variables and how to declare the function. In the next exercise we'll be using these variables what we have declared and the function what we have declared in this exercise. So in Swift we declare variable by writing a word var, and I'll give my label my variable name as my first text. So you declare your variable by using var followed by the variable name, and you can followed by the colon followed by the type. So this is how you declare the variable. Now Swift assumes that when you declare the variable you need to initialize it, but as of now I do not want to initialize my variable. So in that case you have to write question mark, means the value can be optional. Now because while creating an object you might have an issue that object might not get created. It might have a null value, or in iOS we say nil value. So in that case your variable can have or may not have a value. So those variables are termed as optional variables. Now if I create a variable, say score int equal to 5, then you don't need to say score question mark, because score is been initialized at the first line. Now you are defining variable of type int, but Swift is type defined language, so where you can say life equal to 3. So in this case, whenever you initialize the variable during the declaration, you don't need to give the type of the variable, because type will be interpreted by the Swift compiler during the execution. So you don't necessarily need to provide the type. Now if you want to create a constant, you have to use let say abc equal to 5.0. So what you have created in this, you have created a constant called abc which has a value 5.0, which is a float. So Swift compiler internally will interpret everything for you. So we have covered how to declare the variable, how to declare the constant, and how to declare and why the optional variable concept is there. So optional variable, when you are not initializing a variable while declaring it, we say a variable needs to be optional. In that case, you need to define the type, declare the type. If you are initializing your variable while declaring them, then there is no need to say an optional. Also, there is no need to define the type if you are initializing your variable. If you are initializing your constant, you have to use word let. Now, let's see how to create a function. So, function in Swift is created by writing a word function, func, followed by the name of the function. So, in my case, I'll say load my first label, followed by the round bracket. Now, the return type we write using arrow, comma, arrow, followed by the void as a return type. Now, this becomes easier to read. In normal language, how you read? Load my first label returns void. So, as you type, it's more readable. The Swift is more readable, friendly language than the other language which we have, because the keywords are being placed in the manner how you read the syntax. Now, even if your function is returning a void, you can avoid writing the return type. Swift compiler will automatically detect it's a void function. So we'll be saying we can save. So it becomes lesser coding language. So now suppose you want to declare a function which has a return type. So I'll say load text. Say it returns integer. Then this is the way we'll be declaring the method. Now error will come absolutely, because the function returns some value, so you have to say return say 10. Now if you have seen, I have not used semicolons anywhere in my instruction. So Swift allows you to write an instruction without having the semicolon, but if you have two statements in one line, then you need to separate them with the semicolon. I hope you have got through the syntax of declaring the variable and the function. In coming session, we'll see how to set the parameters to the function.